Weird sciencey facts that boggle my mind. Up is down, north is south, nothing makes sense anymore. If you ever feel like you're struggling to get life figured out, it turns out that finding your true north is a lot harder than you may have thought. Because it turns out the North Pole isn't actually at the North Pole, and the North Pole is actually the South Pole, and where the North Pole is today isn't where it'll be tomorrow. We're all familiar with a compass, and we've generally been taught to believe that it is one of the most reliable navigation tools in the world. And for the most part, that's true. Magnetic compasses have been used by people to circumnavigate the world for hundreds or even thousands of years. But it turns out a compass doesn't actually point at the Earth's North Pole. It points at its magnetic South Pole, which is close to the Earth's geographic North Pole, but not right on. See, the Earth kind of works like a generator. It's spinning, and as it spins, all of the liquid hot magma, the molten iron in its core, churns about, and the iron moving about creates a magnetic field. But unlike a generator that has solid metal internal components that are moving past each other to create that magnetic field, the Earth has a globby, blobby, liquidy metal inside that floats around. And that means that the poles of that magnetic field they move. On average, about 10 miles a year. However, it's picked up the pace and now it is hurtling towards Siberia at 55 miles per year, which scientists believe might mean that it is about to switch poles, which apparently it does every few 100,000 years, and the North Pole just becomes the South Pole, which if it did that would actually make the North Pole the North Pole. Because as it stands right now, your compass uses a magnet, and magnets have a North and a South Pole just like the Earth does. And remember, when it comes to magnets, opposites attract. So the North Pole on your magnet is attracted to the Earth's magnetic South Pole, which is located at the Earth's geographic North Pole. Well, close to the Earth's geographic North Pole. So if the poles were to switch, your compass would then be pointing north to Antarctica, which would then be the Earth's geographic South Pole and its magnetic South Pole. But as it stands currently, the Earth's magnetic South Pole is near the Earth's magnetic North Pole in Alaska, and these changes where the poles flip take hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years, so we're not going to experience it, in our lifetime, so you don't need to worry about your compass getting turned around. But you do kind of need to worry about where your compass is pointing. For most of us around the world, the compass is only going to point about 1.5 degrees off of geographic north, and that's not enough to mess up your navigation. But in Alaska, it can be a serious problem because the pole moves all the time, and it's about 1,200 miles away from geographic north. That's like half the distance of Minnesota to Miami, and enough to get you lost the further north you go if you're relying on a compass. So if you ever follow Johnny Horton north to Alaska, I definitely suggest bringing the GPS. What makes all this crazier is that while scientists understand why the poles move, they really don't know why they flip every few 100,000 years. But we do know that when the poles do finally flip, we lose our magnetic field for a time. And that's bad, okay? Because the sun is always trying to kill us, and the magnetic field is what stops it from doing that. So when they do flip again, we're going to be exposed to a lot of cosmic radiation. But as I've said before, it's happened lots of times in the past, and as Jeff Goldblum says, life finds a way. And while we are getting close to a flip, thankfully it's still far enough in the future where it won't be our lives finding a way. But the fact that north is south and the North Pole, which is actually the South Pole, isn't actually at the North Pole, and the poles move around like Uncle Eddie's home, and every so often the North Pole, which is actually the South Pole, flips and becomes the South Pole at the South Pole, well, all of that is pretty mind-boggling.